All right. Well, on our flyers, we had the question, can I heal myself naturally? And either with essential oils, homeopathy. And I would say with a resounding yes. Um, with either. It's just that it's a different type of modality of healing than the normal conventional medicine that, when you go to your doctor, the kind they practice. And so when you use natural healing methods, you need to have probably patience and discipline, perseverance, and also an open mind. You got to think out of the box. And there are so many different natural modalities that are very, very effective, sometimes even more effective than the conventional medicine. But a lot of people just don't know about them, or they're a little nervous about trying them. So that's part of the reason why we're doing these classes. So you can be exposed to two different types of alternative modalities that are very effective in helping, with health issues. Um, and so, go on. There's a disclaimer I want to read quickly. The following advice or information is not to be taken instead of getting emergency care. If you need emergency health care, please contact your doctor or go to the ER. Note the following information is for acute conditions. To treat long-term chronic issues, you need to consult a homeopath or a professional. So, go ahead. I'm going to set up a few scenarios. Um, and so, case number one. And hopefully you guys can relate to at least one of them. But case number one, you've been pulling weeds all day in your garden, and now your back is aching. And the next morning you wake up and you can hardly lift your shovel off the ground. What can you do? All right. Case number two. This comes from our family. Your 2-year-old fell and hit her head. She's screaming. You run over. There's no blood or any cuts, but she won't stop screaming. What can you do? Case number three. It's the perfect day to tackle the slows. My kids, you head down the hill and you trip over your skis. When the ski patrol comes up and checks on you, you're more embarrassed than hurt. They help you back up on your skis and you continue skiing, but you wake up the next morning hurting all over. What can you do? Go skiing again. All right. Case number four. You did a new workout routine at the gym this morning, but now you feel extra achy and sore. You might have even pulled a muscle. What can you do? All right. Well, go ahead. Yes. There's a conventional approach, just the medical practice. Yeah. Well, reduce pain or swelling. You apply cold heat to the skin immediately. You don't leave it on for more than 10 minutes. And if it becomes very swollen or too painful, you need to go and seek professional help. Go to the ER, to urgent care, whatever. But there's another way of dealing with it, either with essential oils or homeopathic remedies, which I'm going to talk about tonight. And I just want you to know that they are not they don't contraindicate anything with the medical practice. So therefore, if you've hurt yourself and you think, I think I need to go to urgent care, I need to go to my doctor, you can start taking homeopathic remedies and still go to the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, you need to take this, or they give you something. It's not going to interfere. So just know that about homeopathy. Go ahead. All right. So we are going to highlight tonight arnica, because that is the answer to those four scenarios that I just talked about. And arnica is the mountain daisy, which you see on the right hand. It's a very hardy little plant that grows on the sides of mountains. It's usually, you don't usually find it in your backyard. But it puts up with a lot of stress and wear and tear, like winds and a really intense weather. And so that is why it's suited for what I'm going to be telling you about. And that's an example of what a homeopathic remedy looks like. And that happens to be arnica 9C. Go ahead. And so arnica is one of the best known homeopathic remedies for trauma in all forms. So arnica is something that everyone should just have with them, carry in their purse, have at home, because you don't know when something will happen. If you trip and fall, it's really good for if you hit your head. If you're so there's the bruises, blows, injuries, or falls. It's also good for shock if you're in a car accident and or any kind of accident. And sometimes shock sets in, whether it's emotional or physical, mental. And one of the ways you know that arnica is definitely indicated, if you go to the person, like say there's been an accident, and and you see like a deep cut or a broken bone, and you say, "Oh, here, let me help you." You say, "Oh, no, no, I'm okay. I'm all right." If they're insisting that they're all right and nothing's, that's usually because they're in shock and they need arnica, and that will help deal. They underestimate the severity of the situation. Another indication for arnica is restlessness, and especially after one of those scenarios during the day, and then you go to bed at night, and you just, oh, I just can't sleep. The bed feels too hard. It feels lumpy. I just can't get comfortable because your muscles or whatever are hurting. That's another indication. Get up and take some arnica. Muscular soreness. You feel as you've just been beaten up, like, oh, I just feel like someone just beat me all up today. And then please. Now, these are other less known uses for arnica. It's great after surgery. And doctors, even a lot of doctors know about it. Some, they don't endorse homeopathy. They'll say, doesn't do anything. And others will say, oh, no, take it. Like um, my granddaughter just had uh, was it tongue tie surgery, and I said to the doctor, he says, "Oh, you can take ibuprofen and or whatever to help with discomfort." And I said, "What about arnica?" And he goes, "Oh yeah, no, that could be helpful." But he says, I don't know how to dose it." Or when I said, "Don't worry, I know how to dose it." But he even knew, and he said, "Yeah, that's a good idea." And so then when my daughter took her back for a follow up, and she was saying she used arnica and some other remedies, he said, "I want to talk to your mother here today. You know, I want to know about it," because she said, "I'd like to recommend it to my patients." So that was a wonderful doctor because others just go, it's all placebo. Um, but it's great for after surgery. It helps speed up the recovery because of either bruising, swelling, bleeding. Dental procedures, a great thing to have, even if you're just getting a filling. Sometimes after the Novocaine or whatever they give you wears off, you go, "Oh, I'm just like sore. I don't feel." Arnica is great for that. It helps take care of that. Labor and after delivery. Probably most of you, well, I don't know, are having babies, but even during labor, sometimes when the mother is going, "I don't think I can do it anymore. I'm just so worn out." Give them a dose of arnica. They can just revive and continue on. And then after delivery, a lot of times you can feel really sore. My daughter-in-law just had a baby 2 months ago, and she was using arnica and really helped her bounce back really fast. Shock, like I talked before, arnica is good for that. And then it's good for both acute and chronic injuries. Now, does everyone know the difference between acute and chronic? No? Okay. Acute is a situation that happens, it comes on suddenly, like an accident, or like the flu or a cold or whatever, and it's a short duration, and it either ends with your body overcoming it and you feeling better, or you die. you know, like it's but that's an acute situation. It's short and it's got a he's got a predict. Most of the time, your body can overcome it, but sometimes, like if you're in a car accident and you get your leg, cut off or whatever, and you're bleeding, well, that's an acute situation. But if you don't get that blood stop, you'll die. So that's acute. Chronic is something that's been going on for usually more than 3 months or years, and that can be any of the autoimmune, lupus, was it well, the Epstein-Barr, long COVID, um, what? Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, any allergies, all these are chronic. What? Arthritis, yes, diabetes, all these things, heart issues, high blood pressure, those are all chronic. situation. They don't just have to be injuries, but if they're injuries, actually, arnica can help. Actually, let's see. I have a couple of clients that I've helped. One had a 60-year-old head injury. She almost died. She fell off a horse and cracked her skull open. And now she's starting with some early like dementia. And she says, I want to see if I can stave it off. So I've been using arnica and some other things with her. And it's been amazing how the body can't even heal a 60-year-old injury and the effects of it. And I have another one that's had 3 head injuries, one just recently, but 2 that were about 30 years old and surgeries and stuff. Again, arnica is good for that, and especially initially. So if you fall and hit your head, just give arnica. Yes, I'm going to talk about that. But yeah, that's a good question. And then the other one is when symptoms agree, arnica can be used for gout, for the flu, and for boils. We have a whole book called the Materia Medica that tells you all the things that you can use arnica for, but these are some of the main ones. And so you can purchase arnica. The health food stores have it. Amazon sells it. We have homeopathic pharmacies they can purchase remedies from, but um, and they come in, well, at the end, I said they come in different potencies. So usually the homeopathic pharmacies sell the potencies, different potencies that you can't find at the health food store um, or Amazon. But if you need those, but usually that's under the care of a homeopath. So they come in pellets, which is the bottom of the screen there. Those little round balls are called pellets. It comes in liquid, like the middle picture. And it also comes in an ointment, and it can be in a tube. I didn't have a picture of that one, but it comes in a tube. I think we have it over here, actually. Um, and the tube can either be a roll-on or it can be an ointment or a cream. The only thing about it was when you use arnica, like if you've got sore muscles, you can rub the cream on as long as the skin isn't broken. You don't want to put it on broken skin. But I'll just warn you that if you go to the pharmacy or you can get it at Rite Aid, at Walmart, they sell arnica, is if you get the cream or ointment, it's a very, very low potency of arnica. So you might say, oh, it didn't do anything for me. Some people, they can respond to it, but otherwise, I usually like to go with the pellets or the tinctures, the liquids, because you can get higher potencies and especially if your muscles are aching all over and you hurt yourself, you'll want a higher potency. So, um, the other thing for you to know is that remedies will keep indefinitely. Even though on the bottle it'll give you an expiration date because that's required by the FDA. If they're stored properly, not in extreme heat or in extreme weather conditions. And one thing to know is if you have essential oils, you can use it with homeopathic remedies. You have to keep them separate though, and you don't store them together because they work on similar principles and they're both very strong and they can cancel out effects of each other. So, but they will store indefinitely, and in fact, they found homeopathic remedies from like 150 years ago, and they were still just as effective as they were 150 years ago. So, don't worry about any expiration dates. You can ignore those. And remedies, they come in different potencies. Like there's 30C. C is the most common, which means 100. So it's 100 dilutions. There's X's, which means 10 dilutions. And then there's Q's, and there's LMs and M's. There's a lot of different ones, but most of the ones you'll find in the store are going to be either C or X's, and those are fine. So if you're self-prescribing, you can go to the store, buy some of those, but only take one remedy at a time. Don't try mixing it with, oh, well, I'll take some arnica and then I'll take some root and then I'll take some, and I'll just take them all together and hopefully one of them. It would be better to take one at a time to know what's working. So you're not just constantly taking a bunch of and not knowing what's really working. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, they are. But those are made that way. And those ideally, as homeopaths, we prefer not to use with because when they do mix them, if you look on the ingredients, they're always very low potencies. And and homeopathy can be extremely effective if you use one remedy at a higher potency because it'll target the situation. But if you don't know and you need something because your baby's screaming and they've got colic and it says colic and it's got four things, now go ahead, give it to them. You want your peace of mind. Go ahead, Anna. Okay, so what are remedies made from? Almost anything. They're mainly made from substances from the plant, animal, or mineral kingdoms. And but nowadays they're making they're making more and more remedies, and they have to go through a proving process and their catalog. And so they have thousands of them, and even some of them now aren't even made from those three things, but they're all things in creation. Anything that you find in this world, and they even have sunlight now, sunlight and moonlight, and I mean it's interesting what they do. They're called imponderables, but they're not ones that you know most people would use. So you're not going to find them at Walmart or, um, but they do, and in order to make remedies, they go through a proving process where they take a group of people and they all take it and then they catalog all their reactions and everything. And then so that you know what the remedies are good for. So it's not just, oh yeah, let's make something from, the eucalyptus tree and see what happens. Okay, go ahead. I'll explain more about this. So what in the world is homeopathy? I told you about arnica, one of the most popular remedies, but what is it? Because I ask people and they say, "Oh yeah, I do homeopathy. I take it. It's herbs, isn't it?" And I go, "No, not really." Uh, and so homeopathy is based on sound scientific principles. It is a medical modality, and it's a Western medical modality. It's not Eastern. It's not or Chinese medicine or anything. It actually was developed by a German doctor. And so it's very much Western medicine. And until the 1950s in the United States, or right after World War II, um, we had homeopathic hospitals here. We had homeopathic clinics, we even had homeopathic like asylums for people. And when they had the Spanish flu in the early 1900s, was it 1917 or something like that? The homeopaths had a higher success rate because people died from the Spanish flu. And I think the homeopaths were at about 80% of saving people's lives. And where allopathic medicine, which is the medicine we use now, was at about 40 to 50%. So a lot of people just, well, I have better chances of surviving because I go to homeopath. But things changed with the Flexner report and everything. And so in the 50s, they started just doing away with everything homeopathic because they couldn't make money off of it. It's all about money. And so it's that. But it is a scientific medical practice. It's not some weird thing out there. So it's gentle, it's safe, and it's effective. The doctor that developed this system, that was his goal because well, I'm going to talk to you about him in the next slide, so I'll leave that. It's without toxic drugs or side effects. So nothing in homeopathic form is toxic to you. It'll either help you or it won't. But it won't hurt you. It's holistic. It treats the whole body, not just the symptoms. Um, and like Loran was talking about with the essential oils, the little pellets themselves or the tinctures do not heal you. It's a catalyst and it cures the disease by naturally activating and boosting your body's own inner ability to heal itself. So it gives the body what's lacking because our body was designed, it was created to heal itself. And we just, in our day and age that we're living in, we've got so much toxicity and stuff that we can't, and stress, that our bodies are just really struggling to overcome anything. And so it needs help to kind of give it that boost for that immune system or whatever to kick in. And so that's where homeopathy and essential oils can help, is that it helps the body say, okay, I can do this. This is what I need to do. And it reads the remedy, reads the essential oil, and you can heal. Yeah. Do you want to autoimmune? Yeah, oh, sure does. The only thing is it's not, and this is what I was differentiating between acute and chronic. The things I'm telling you, like with the arnica, the things you can use it for are more acute situations. So you can buy your own homeopathic remedy and administer. If it's chronic, you need to know more about homeopathy and how it works, and that's why you would consult with a homeopath. But yeah, we help with autism, with autoimmune, diabetes, lupus, all sorts of allergies, all sorts of things. But again, you have to persevere. You can't just try, oh, it didn't work. It didn't take it away. Because we're so used to everything working like instantly. Everything's fast. And so you have to give it time. And we usually tell our patients that for every condition that you've had, if you've had it for 5 years, it's going to take at least 5 months using homeopathy to start rectifying that situation. It's not a quick fix. If it's acute, you hit your head, you got a sore muscle, you'll feel the results a lot faster. You'll feel them almost immediately. And so, yeah, actually, I should tell the story. One of my homeopathic teachers years ago, he fell and he's actually split his skull open, and he told his wife, who was also home, get the arnica quickly and call 911. Well, they were in England, but whatever it is that you call in England. And so while he was being transported to the hospital, his wife was there in the ambulance and just popping arnica into his mouth. He says, okay, give me another one, because it was a very severe, injury. And so he could take it like, I don't think he was taking it every 10 seconds or whatever. And by the time he got to the ER and they were doing triage and thinking, okay, we're going to have to do surgery. And I think the doctor stopped and they go, this is very unusual. He said, there's no inflammation, and there's actually, the blood is coagulating and everything it's like it's almost starting to heal on its own. And but he had been taking the arnica, for the last 15, 20 minutes, just constantly into his mouth. And so it can work that fast. It's amazing what it can do. So ultimately, it gives you the tools to heal yourself naturally. And again, you can buy some of these things and help yourself in emergency situations. But if it's chronic, yeah, you have to use a homeopath. Go ahead. So the founder of homeopathy was Dr. Samuel Hahnemann. He was a German physician, and he lived in the 1700s into the 1800s, and he created the system. But the principles of homeopathy have been known from Egypt, all sorts of different Egyptian, society, but the Native American Indians, the Greeks, a lot of different cultures have used homeopathy, the principles of homeopathy. No one ever put it into a medical or a system. And so he was, in those days, the medicine that he was taught to practice was leeching, where you took leeches or bloodletting until you bled someone until an inch of their death. And then if they were strong enough and could survive, then, wow, we cured them. But he was saying this is totally inhumane, and we've taken an oath to do no harm. And yet, he says, I really question some of these practices. And so he was also a pharmacist and a medical researcher. And so he says there's got to be a better way that's gentle and safe and effective. And so he started experimenting, and that's a whole other story that's fascinating. And he came up with the system of homeopathy. And he coined the term homeopathy, and it comes from the Greek, homeos meaning similar, and pathos meaning suffering. And so, and I'll explain a little more what that means. And it's based on the law of similars. And before I go into the law of similars, know that the medicine that's practiced now in in the hospitals, the doctors that most people see, is called allopathic medicine as opposed to homeopathic. Allo meaning different suffering, and it's based on the law of opposites. And so, for example, if you have allergies, what do they give you? An antihistamine. If you have like a bacterium, they give you an antibiotic, um, or antiviral or anti, it's everything is anti. Um, and because that's what conventional medicine is based on. And so they take a drug or a substance that's has nothing to do with your symptoms or your present condition, and they give it to you, and it's usually like lab created or whatever, and it's toxic, and that's how it works, and that's why it's the law of opposites. Homeopathy, go ahead, is based on the law of similars. I'm sure everyone has had this experience of cutting an onion, and when you cut an onion or you're cutting it for a while, what happens? You start crying, your eyes burn and sting. Sometimes your nose starts running. You might be sneezing. Your throat might get, depending on how many onions you have to cut. And so this is a natural reaction to a natural substance, and it's not bad. And so people have all the things. Oh, run water, and that should help. Or someone said, put a spoon in your mouth while you're sitting, and that will help with everyone has a different, but go ahead. So that's a natural reaction. So the law of similars, like cures like, which is what homeopathy is based on, is when you cut a raw onion, it produces those symptoms: burning eyes, watery, clear discharge from your nose and eyes, from the throat, stinging tears, irritation. But you take that onion made into a homeopathic form, which is called Allium cepa. All the homeopathic names for the homeopathic substances are Latin. They're from science. That's what, if you talk to a scientist, like a biologist, they'll say, no, it's not an onion, it's Allium cepa. And so if you dilute, what they do is they take the onion and there's a whole process, and they dilute it down, and they ultra dilute it, hundreds, sometimes thousands of times down, so that there's a lot of times, that's why doctors don't appreciate homeopathy or understand it, because they said there's nothing of the original substance left in it. So how can it do any good? Physics, quantum physics has now proved how homeopathy works, because science has caught up with homeopathy and can explain it. So anyway, the onion diluted down many times will cure those exact same symptoms that it produces in its raw or natural state. So when do you have burning, watery, itchy eyes? Seasonal allergies, hay fevers, common cold, sinusitis. That's what you would use Allium cepa for. Okay, next one, please. And so with homeopathy, individuality is the key. That's what makes it also sets it apart from conventional medicine, is because the law of similars requires that the remedy has to fit the individual symptoms. So, and each person is different. So, for example, two people might have seasonal allergies, but their experience of it can be completely different. So one might need Allium cepa because they have watery, burning eyes, but someone else might be more sneezing, yet they have discharge from their eyes, but it doesn't burn. But they might have discharge from their nose that burns. So that's a completely different remedy. And so you have to look at the person, their symptoms, of how their situation is manifesting, what their symptoms are, and then you match the homeopathic remedy to the person. And so according to the law of, so there it is. That's what I said. And so in homeopathy, we don't treat the disease. So some people come to me and say, oh, the doctor says I have cancer. The doctor says, I have, I don't know, whatever the label that they put on it. And for a homeopath, the label isn't as important. So some people that come say, I don't know, I really haven't been to a doctor, but I have all these problems, and that's fine, because we don't need a label. all we need to know is the person and what their symptoms are because we match it to the remedy. And so we're treating the patient, not the disease. Is that the end or one more? Yep, two more. Okay. Yeah, that's the end. So if you've been struggling with symptoms for longer than a month, it would be prudent to seek out the advice of a homeopath if you want to try an alternative, a method of healing. And we would be happy to help